Beneath towering green cliffs, a narrow channel winds its way through the rugged landscape, its waters disturbed only by the rhythmic paddling of a lone navigator. The man, steering a canoe meant for 3, bears a heavy heart. His 8 companions have been captured by pale, bearded invaders armed with gleaming weapons and shields. Reaching his village, he recounts the harrowing ambush and swiftly gathers a war party. These native people have lived on this land for countless generations, descendants of those who braved the frozen tundras and crossed prehistoric seas to find a new world untouched by other humans. Over time, as the ages passed and continents drifted apart, each hemisphere developed in mutual ignorance until an era of unexpected encounters began. For thousands of years, Native American societies thrived, creating cultures rich in language, faith, and prophecy. Then, with brutal suddenness, their isolation was shattered. The Vikings, fierce seafarers from Scandinavia, had already pillaged much of Europe, establishing settlements in Iceland and Greenland. By the late 10th century, their ambitions turned westward. Leif Erikson, son of the famed Erik the Red, had earlier explored the North American coast, founding the settlement of Vinland. However, it was his brother Leif Erikson who first encountered the indigenous people, in a fateful clash that would set the tone for future interactions. Thorvald led a small band of Norse explorers deep into the heart of the American coast. As their ship hugged the shoreline, they finally spotted a settlement of native people. But the peaceful sight soon gave way to violence. Swarms of indigenous canoes surrounded the Viking vessel, launching a relentless attack with stone-tipped arrows. Though the Norsemen raised their shields in defense, one fatal arrow struck Thorvald. Mortally wounded, he instructed his men to bury him on this foreign shore with 2 crosses to mark his grave. The survivors hastily retreated to their settlement, and by spring they abandoned Vinland altogether, returning to Greenland. Yet the allure of the new land persisted. Soon after Thorvald's ill-fated expedition, Thorfinn Karlsefni, a wealthy Icelandic merchant, organized another voyage. Unlike Thorvald, Karlsefni aimed not merely to explore, but to establish a permanent colony. He brought with him nearly 70 settlers, including women and children, a mix of Christians and pagans. Upon arriving in Vinland, they found the land fertile and abundant, and their spirits were lifted when they discovered a beached whale, a fortuitous source of sustenance for the long winter. Settling into sod houses, the Norse prepared for their first winter in the New World. With spring came the first encounter with the native people. Although initially wary of the Norse cattle, the natives soon approached with gifts of pelts. Through gestures and rudimentary communication, they expressed interest in the Norse weapons. Karlsefni, however, refused to trade his iron tools, instead offering milk from their livestock. The natives, fascinated by the unfamiliar beverage, eagerly exchanged all their pelts for it and departed. Tensions escalated when the natives returned in greater numbers that fall. During the tense exchange, a native attempted to seize a Norse weapon and was struck down by a Viking. Realizing retaliation was imminent, Karlsefni ordered his warriors to lure the natives into the forest, where a fierce battle ensued. Tomahawks and arrows clashed with axes and shields in a brutal melee. The Vikings, seasoned warriors, scattered the indigenous attackers, leaving many dead in the woods. Despite their military success, the colony faced mounting challenges. The harsh winters, constant threat of attack, and dwindling morale ultimately led Karlsefni to abandon the settlement. By the following spring, the Norse loaded their ships with pelts and wild grapes, returning once more to Greenland. Thus ended the brief Norse attempt to colonize North America. The tale of these expeditions is preserved in two Icelandic sagas, the Saga of the Greenlanders and the Saga of Eric the Red. Though both recount similar events, they differ in key details. The Saga of Eric the Red, for instance, combines the expeditions of Thorvald and Karlsefni into a single narrative and includes a dramatic battle where the Norse are nearly defeated, only to be saved by the courageous Freydis, who drives off the attackers by striking her bare chest with a sword. Such embellishments reflect the saga's origins in oral tradition, where historical facts often mingled with folklore. In Eric's saga, there is even mention of a one-legged creature that fatally wounds Thorvald with an arrow to the groin, a fantastical element likely added to captivate audiences around hearths during long Scandinavian winter. Over time, as Viking clans transitioned into kingdoms and their settlements in Greenland were abandoned, these tales faded into legend, remembered only by a few. However, whispers of a distant western land persisted. In Italy, around 1340, a monk recorded tales of Marcolata, a land inhabited by giants with massive stone buildings. Such stories, blending fact and myth, hinted at the forgotten Norse expeditions. By 1492, when Columbus reached the Americas, the Vatican noted that no news had come from Greenland in decades. Scholars debated whether the Vikings had truly reached mainland North America until, in 1960, archaeologists unearthed conclusive evidence at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland. Excavations revealed remnants of a Viking settlement, including sod houses, an iron forge, and wood fragments, all dated to around 1021 AD. This discovery confirmed that the Norse had indeed reached the New World nearly 500 years before Columbus. Speculation about the extent of their exploration continues to this day. Some historians suggest that the Norse may have ventured as far south as modern-day Maine or New York. The indigenous people they encountered were likely ancestors of the Beothuk or Dorset cultures, whose resistance may have ultimately driven the Vikings to abandon their efforts. Thus, the Saga of Eric the Red concludes with a somber reflection. Although the land was excellent, they could never live there in safety or freedom from fear because of the native inhabitants, so they made ready to leave the place and return home. While North America escaped permanent Norse colonization, Europe endured centuries of Viking raids, leaving a lasting legacy on the continent. Today, the story of Viking explorers continues to captivate historians and enthusiasts alike. The daring voyages of Leif Erikson, Thorvald, and Karlsefni serve as a testament to the Norse spirit of exploration. Though their settlements were short-lived, their impact endures, reminding us of an era when the boundaries of the known world were constantly being pushed by those brave enough to venture into the unknown. From the icy shores of Greenland to the fertile lands of Vinland, the sagas offer a window into a bygone age of adventure, conflict, and discovery. The legacy of these early expeditions lives on, inspiring modern explorers and historians to continue unraveling the mysteries of the past.